So the last module in chapter 15 is module 48, and this is looking at psychological disorders and putting them into perspective. So there are two questions to answer in this last module, and this is how prevalent are psychological disorders? And then what indicators actually signal a need for the help of a mental health practitioner? So when is it possible that when a disorder becomes more than what you can actually handle and you need the help of someone else, right? That's kind of what that second question means. Okay, so let's look at how common are the disorders, the ones that we just talked about. 1 out of every 2 people in the United States is likely to experience a psychological disorder at some point in time in their lives, whether that is one of the extreme ones or one of the lesser extreme ones, right? But 1 out of every 2 people in the United States will experience a psychological disorder at some point in time in their lives. Many people experience a comorbidity. That means that they have multiple simultaneous psychological disorders in the same person. So they may have generalized anxiety disorder and also major depression. Those two you go together quite often, and that's what we call a comorbidity. Now, whenever it comes to mental health difficulties, that is a global concern. Again, it is not just the United States. You see this across the planet. And the economic disparities that actually affect treatment. We need to do so much better with our health care in treating individuals with mental health issues. What we find is that in developing countries, 90% of the people with a psychological disorder receive no care at all. That's a developing country, such as the United States is a developing country. If you go to underdeveloped countries, right, that's, even worse. So in developing countries, 90% of the people with a psychological disorder receive no care at all. Notice that the incidence of different disorders varies significantly in other cultures. That's one thing to keep in mind. Now, this is at the top of page 525, and it's the top problems of students visiting college counseling centers. So you have the concerns here on the y-axis, and across the bottom, how often those concerns occur, right? The top one is anxiety. 23% of students visiting college counseling centers are there for anxiety. Depression is the second largest, 19%. Relationship problems, specific relationship problems, is 7%. Stress, 5%, and in family, grief, loss, interpersonal functioning, adjustment to a new environment, so on and so forth. But you can see that anxiety and worry is at the very top for the number of students that actually go to the counseling center. All right, the next thing is the social and cultural context of psychological disorders. So the DSM-5 reflects a Western culture at the start of the 21st century. The DSM-5 reflects Western culture at the start of the 21st century. So we are in the 21st century right now. The inclusion of some newly classified disorders in the DSM-5 is considered controversial. And some of these controversial issues or classifications are disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, binge eating disorder, and hoarding. These are really quite controversial that they should be included in that. Now, the next two slides, the last two slides in this chapter and in this module, kind of go hand in hand. And you can see both of them on page 526 in your book. So the first one, oh, there's two things at the bottom of that previous one, sorry. Some would like to see other societal phenomena, including mass shootings, and in the majority of mass murders have no diagnosable disorder. Sorry, I forgot to include that at the bottom. Okay, so this is the figure I was talking about. So this figure shows the distribution of psychological and substance use disorders across the globe. Okay? So purple is the shared global population. Green is males, and orange is females with the disorder. So any mental or substance use disorder, those are extremely high for shared male and female. You then get to depression, which I'm surprised it is actually so low. Anxiety disorders, and then you get to the even smaller ones for that. Now, if you go to the next slide, this one shows the distribution of psychological and substance use disorders across the globe. So along the x-axis is the number of people with the disorder, and along the y-axis, this is the number of people in the millions. So if we look at any mental or substance use disorder, we're talking at almost, 900 million people. Then we drop way down to depression, which I'm still surprised this is so low. And then we have the anxiety disorders and then the other ones across the bottom.